it's very much not beneficial to me to just be an asshole all the time. It's great for me, in fact.
And that's not reflected in any video game that we've come across.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting observation.
So what I wanted to do is create a game in which you were afraid for your life, seriously. Not like Dark Souls seriously, but like seriously afraid for my life. Not because I'd have to start over from the beginning, but because that's my only life.
Why don't you introduce yourselves and give us the convention pitch for Upsilon Circuit?
Ah, yes. Well, hi, I'm Kitty, or Alix from Robot Loves Kitty.
I am Robot, or Calvin from Robot Loves Kitty.
Yes. And we're the creators of Upsilon Circuit!
And various other video games.
And various other video games, yes.
Upsilon Circuit.
The convention pitch.
Oh yeah, no, this is good. I'm good at this.
The convention pitch depends on the convention. Like,
Yeah,
if it's really busy, it's sometimes just like
no,
you
but
just yell
the
something
really
as
good
quickly
one,
as you can at someone.
The really good one is to say, so Upsilon Circuits, online action RPG, but there's only one server, and there are only 8 people in the whole world ever playing at one time. And then you wait for that to sink in, and they're like, "What?" and then you say, "Yeah, but like when they die in the game, they are perma dead, and they cannot play the game ever again." And then they get this confused look on their face, like, "What are you talking about?" And then you go, "Oh, but it's okay because the whole thing's broadcast out at certain showtimes." And everybody watches this incredible adventure take place. And when somebody bites it in the game, we select somebody from the audience to come in and have their one go at progressing the story and adventure of this game. And then also there's another aspect, which is a lot of fun, which is that the audience members have a lot that they can do too. Say if you're watching one of these players and you just can't stand this guy, you hate this particular player. Yeah, you're like, get out, get out. And I don't know if we should say that. I would be so grateful if he would play the game. But you don't like this guy. You can buy a monster and send it in after him in the game to try and kill him as an audience member. Yeah. So there's a huge amount. Or if you're somebody you really like, you can buy them a health potion and keep them alive longer. And keep them in the game.
It's super cool. This idea, when I first heard about it, yeah, I was equally as stunned, just as you said, that this was getting made. It's kind of feels like something out of some science fiction future, you know, a video game show, and it's so cool. Where did this come from for you guys? Where did this idea come from? Where did it grow out of? And then more specifically, was this this vision of Upsilon Circuit? Did it emerge over time, or was it something that you kind of knew from the beginning you wanted to make?
It did take a little time.
It took its full form. That took a little while, but we very quickly kind of honed in on a couple of key things that we really wanted.
Yeah, we can talk about where it started with.
It definitely started with the release of our last game, Legend of Dungeon.
Well, there's 2 places it started, but that's one.
Well, this is where it starts, because when we released Legend of Dungeon, people streamed it, and I wasted all of my time watching people stream Legend of Dungeon. It was really fun.
We spent 8 hours in a day watching Legend of Dungeon streams.
Other things I was supposed to do didn't happen because I was busy.
It's fun for us because, like, with a game like Legend of Dungeon, it's a roguelike, and you don't know what's in. I don't know what's in the next room because it's procedurally generated.
To clarify, it's not just an ego thing. We weren't like, oh, people are watching our game.
What could happen? I don't know what's gonna come. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what's gonna.
It was interesting to see people interact in this environment that we had created. It was naturally really interesting. And from that, we kind of talked about, like, well, now that this game is released, what do we want to make next? And it just kind of was like, I want to make a game that we can watch. Like, I want to make a game for
Legend
watching.
of Dungeon we made to play together.
Yeah. We always, that's our big thing, is like, we're a husband and wife couple. We make games together, and the inspiration for our whole company has been that we have different tastes in games, and we wanted to make games to play together. And so this is a game we wanted to watch together.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The other big direction that it came from is that I've been thinking about like multiplayer online interaction since I started my first game, which was Never on 8-bit, which was me attempting to make an MMO for my first game, which is a dumb thing to do.
Yeah. Don't make an MMO for your first game, kids.
We did anyway, and a lot of thought went into what happens when two players in any multiplayer game come and meet each other for first time in any system where PvP is an available option. Either PvP is not an available option, and you just can treat each other like garbage, and that's okay, right?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do
Or
about it.
PvP is enabled, and you don't care if you die because you'll just respawn, no big deal.
Yeah.
And so I started
Generally,
thinking, like,
regardless of whether there's PvP or not, you often just see the people run up to each other and just start swinging their swords.
yeah, just
just
annoying
the
each
thing.
other even.
They're just like, can I kill this person?
It's the
And,
way it goes. It's how it happens.
That doesn't happen in reality. I
That's
walk
true.
up to a new person I meet on the street, and I am respectful and kind to them.
What?
And
You
right, I know
you
it's weird.
What?
I know, and a part of that is because of
They
our
could stab
culture
you.
and stuff.
No.
But like, yeah,
It's
I
a
don't. There's no
possibility.
reason. It's very much not beneficial to me to just be an asshole all the time. It's great for me, in fact.
And that's not reflected in any video game that we've come
That's
across.
true.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting observation.
So what I wanted to do is create a game in which you were afraid for your life, seriously. Not like Dark Souls seriously, but like seriously afraid for my life. Not because I'd have to start over from the beginning, but because that's my only life. And when I walk up to somebody in this game, I want to be like, everybody just be like, whoa, just, okay, you're not going to PvP me, are you? I want to be your friend. I'm here to help you. Don't kill me. That's what I'd like to see. That gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
So in looking at Upsilon Circuit and your recent IndieHangover campaign and thinking about this game before talking to you guys, one of the things that came up to me was the idea of having one permanent permadeath, and you have one life, you have one chance to play this game, and the issue of gremlins in the works, of technical issues, of people running into problems with their computer, with their controls, any of that. And I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. You would think, like, adjusting controls, but I've played games where I had something bound incorrectly, and that killed me. How are you approaching that? And I mean, it's kind of a mechanical thing, but I think it's kind of important to think about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are running this as a show.
Mm-hmm.
This is a show. There's going to be like set up beforehand. There's like making sure everybody's got the right equipment, that they're connected well. Make sure their mics work. That's going to be super important.
It's a whole operation.
It's like running a Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune in some ways. Make sure the contestants are there. Make sure they're not going to say anything that's going to go across really bad.
We're putting a concentrated effort into making sure the game is easy to intuitively learn, as well as giving people a period of time where there's kind of a little more forgiveness, so to speak.
Then once the show is running, let's say something totally stupid happens and just everybody dies for some, like they can't regain health or something horrible
A bug.
happens. We can pause the game at any moment and say we're experiencing technical difficulties. We'll be back.
Right.
And then just
cue the music.
fix everything. Exactly.
Yeah.
Elevator music comes up, and we've been thinking about that, obviously. So we've been working on this for over 2 years now.
Yeah,
right?
2.5 years.
And so
This concept.
Yeah, this has come up a couple times.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure.
We're gonna make it good.
It is.
Basically.
It is an interesting conundrum because there is this. If you are a contestant and you get your one chance to play and something happens and you die and you don't feel like it's your fault, that is something that we want to avoid. We want it to be your fault.
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
You
yeah.
Or somebody's fault.
you know, it's like
Right?
or your teammate Jim who decided to press that nice happy PvP button and just cut you in half so that he could get
Whatever sword you picked
the
up.
thing
Yeah.
that you have or whatever. Because Well, like Calvin said, you know, you don't just walk up to somebody on the street and you're not rude to them.
I like those shoes.
Right, yeah. You don't just like randomly walk up to, you know, guards and steal their underwear or whatever you can do in various other games. But but that also means you're not locked into trusting anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you have teammates in this game, there's like 2 teams of 4 that are playing. You don't necessarily trust them. You can't guarantee your safety at any given point. It's a strange existence for a video game in that sense as well.
In fact, we haven't even been thinking of it as a video game in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Alex came up with a term that we've been passing back and forth between ourselves. I don't think we've talked about it anywhere else.
In talking about both our very original game, Never Dawn, which is kind of like Callan's dream game, and Upsilon Circuit, which is also kind of like a dream game. It has become, yeah.
And that is they are reality extensions. They're not necessarily games, but it's an extension of reality into cyberspace. The rules that happen there are
very societal.
Yeah. What the most interesting parts of them are not the game mechanics, but the people.
The world that happens around the game.
Yeah.
That leads pretty nicely into another thing I was wanting to ask, which is what are some of the logistical issues of running this video game show that you didn't anticipate?
All of
now
them?
That well, yeah, okay. Because I mean, especially now that we're talking, it's becoming more and more clear to me that this is something more than a video game. Like you're saying, it is a show. It is an extension of reality into the cyberspace. How are you dealing with those logistical issues as an independent team?
Well,
we're starting to. Well,
there's so many.
Yeah, there's. So we're. I don't know. How are we dealing with this?
Panic. No. No. So it's definitely like as we walked forward, it was just as with almost any project. You don't get into it knowing how hard it's going to be because then you wouldn't have started, right?
Right.
It's a bad like you get in, you're like halfway in and you're like, oh, it's like this. It's like, oh, it's going to be really hard. I thought it was just going to be hard. And then you find solutions around it or you quit. And since we're not the quitting type,
we're solving things in weird ways.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
So there's all sorts of
things.
There's all sorts of troubles. Just
one of the things that
we've
definitely underestimated was how many people it would take to actually run the show part of the game show.
Yeah.
We're currently we're running little like tiny internal play tests because everything's broken. Like nobody should see it. It's broken.
We do dress rehearsals basically.
But we're actually just doing one earlier today, and it takes a lot of people because we need somebody watching the cameras. We need somebody operating various other things that are happening and doing secret stuff that I can't tell you about, and somebody else to do this and that,
directors,
and people to use the spectating stuff and check the audience interactions and
because there's so many aspects to this game. Like we have a whole web interface for interacting with the game, so you're not using like chat commands like a lot of like Twitch games and stuff like that. You have a
your
graphical
own game to play.
There's a game where you watch the show and then interact with the show, and so there's a lot of components to it, and it has taken a lot more people power than we had expected. And we hooked up with
and Execution Labs is helping us, which is making things a little bit easier there. It's still like a tiny operation, and we're still very much like flying by the seat of our pants.
Yep. And I think as we approach like actually going for like season 1 out of beta, we're gonna need to ramp up considerably to get the amount of people necessary to run a show.
To run the show properly.
Like trying to make it professional.
Proper people.
So I think kind of one of the things that people could glean from what you've learned is in regard to community, because it seems to me that community is going to be the maker or breaker of Upsilon Circuit. You need players to play and you need an audience to watch. So what steps are you taking to build that community, and how are you approaching that as developers in laying the framework for a community that you're hoping is going to be large enough to support this for multiple seasons, that kind of thing?
Well, like, one of the things that we're doing is like even like you mentioned that we have this Indiegogo thing happening right now. One of the things that we did that for is to start creating a really solid core group of really passionate people who are excited about the concept. Because one of the things that I've just seen it happen a handful of times where a game will get big and it'll be like, all right, and here's the forums, and it just gets flooded with brand new people. And if you have something set already, like that sets the tone, like you have people, culture. You seed the culture. Yeah, you have these people who kind of early on understand how to behave properly, like good decent humans, and they help make everybody else behave like good decent humans in that sense. So that's kind of one of the things that we're doing. There's also inside of the game itself, there are things that are outside of the game. I won't go into any more details than that, but that somehow answers some of the things about how we're doing community stuff.
Mysterious, I like it.
It's so hard not to give out spoilers.
Yeah, this has really been really tough
always
for us.
Hard.
We can't show anything.
And the reason for that, because we didn't really touch on this yet, is yes, people who play the game as a contestant, when they die, they are dead forever. But the game can only be played once, too.
Yeah, so we're gonna do.
Yeah. So the story
it has a beginning and it has an end.
And everything that happens in the middle is
Upsilon
affected
Circuit.
by is Upsilon Circuit and is affected by everybody who has participated.
Cool.
So it's like an entire community playing a game together in short little bursts.
No looking up secrets on
there are
the
none.
net. No getting Nintendo Power magazines to find tricks. It's just this is it. This is
one
the
go.
Yeah,
that's cool. So
spoiler.
So shifting from Upsilon Circuit to you guys as an independent development company, what brought you to independent game development? What are your individual backgrounds and?
Nobody would hire me to make a game. No sane person would hire me to make a game.
I'm not educated.
That's one way to put it.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. I had to say that. Neither of us have actually gone to school for any kind of game development. We learned everything from Google and other people, just back and forth.
College dropout.
Yeah.
I learned to program on the Commodore 64 and
as a
kept
kid,
going from there.
That MMO that he mentioned earlier, our very first game was actually coded in Visual Basic, which and
it's a 3D game too. Like most people that hear that are pretty in shock.
It got a technical.
I don't know how.
It got a technical excellence nomination at IGF.
I think if it's
5 years ago.
It's 3D and Visual Basic, I mean, I would hope that we get some recognition.
Yeah, well, it had a lot of other interesting aspects to
very
it as well,
interesting
which I think got it
there was like a whole visual programming language inside of it that the players could use and stuff. But I digress.
That's a whole other conversation.
But
yeah, we don't know what we're doing.
What got us into making video games is I touched on it a little bit earlier too, which is that we both had different tastes in games. Like we were like, oh, let's both play World of Warcraft together, and that lasted for like a month. Yeah. And then he was done, and I was like, this is amazing. I can min-max everything. And he's like, ugh, it's work. I don't want to do work. I want to go play like Mario something better, some action platformer. Or...
Yeah, we just have very, very drastically different tastes. Alix likes to min-max things. She likes to adjust statistics until like something is perfect or beautiful in some sort of way, or
abuse a system.
Right?
I
Yes,
like
definitely abusing systems, like making like a
battle
bard or something like that.
Battle priests.
Yeah.
Oh, you're supposed to heal things? No, that's not happening. And then we just have very different tastes in games.
Arcade games and actiony things and stuff like that.
At the time, which was like 10, 11 years ago now, there was nothing that was both of our interests combined at all. And so we're like, let's make something. And then Calvin was like, I have this really cool idea. It'll take me 1 year to make. And he was like, can I quit my job? Can I quit my job? I'll make this game in a year, and it'll be an awesome success, and then you don't have to work for a year, and it'll be even. And then 5 years later...
5 years later, we decided that maybe and then we got the IGF nomination, and then we were like, there's a lot of bugs in this game. And it's not making any money. Let's
We don't know what we're doing. Let's try something that's a little
And
smaller
then we
scale.
did other games.
Yeah,
And
it was-
finally, slowly, after many, many years,
But-
had some level of success.
Basically, the way that we look at the first game that we made was it was basically free education. Because in those 5 years, well, in those before
we were
4
not in
years,
debt. We came out of it
Yeah,
not in debt.
there was
That
no
was
debt.
great.
no debt, and you learned everything you needed to know to learn more stuff.
Well, I knew. Yeah, I mean that's how we do things. We
Yeah.
learn things to learn more stuff.
So as gamers, like you've kind of touched on, you've got radically different tastes, but what games are you playing now? We like to kind of find out where people are sitting in the current game market and find out what they are really into right now, so take it in turn. I imagine we're going to have vastly different...
Hyperlight Drifter. I'm slowly playing Hyperlight Drifter, and a bunch of VR games.
Yeah, definitely. Last night I played Lumino City, which is an indie game, which is a gorgeous indie game, actually. We both played Dungeons and Dragons. That's not a video game, but
No, it counts. It counts.
and then what is this game called? We helped. We are part of a game dev co-working space, and the co-working space has an ongoing game of what is this called? Triton.
I don't
It's
play
an
it.
online web. It's like a Neptune's Pride 2. That's what it's called. Neptune's Pride 2. It's like an online space game where you're like taking over other people's stars, and there's lots of diplomacy and backstabbing. It's lots of fun. And I have been playing a lot of Dota 2 because I apparently like MOBAs. I did not know that until last year, so I play a little
I
of
can't
that.
stand MOBAs.
Yeah, it's really frustrating for me because as a game dev, I don't have a lot of time in big
Right.
chunks like that, but I just can't stop. So I do it. I don't know. I find it's a fascinating genre from a game developer's perspective. That's one of the things that I definitely noticed is becoming a game developer has changed the
But
way that I look at video games
It breaks
entirely.
so
I
many
cannot.
things. So many mechanics
Yeah.
are just like, oh, I see what they're doing here. Yeah,
You're like,
I
oh,
don't feel anything
This
for that
is a
anymore.
compulsion loop.
It's
This
like
is purely a
We
compulsion
look
loop.
behind the curtain and it's like,
Yeah.
Take
That's-
some of the shine off of everything. You see it for what it is, yeah.
Yeah. I spend more time just building things and making games than I do playing games. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when he says building things, he also means like physically. We have a 3D printer, and he just made a
Oh,
neat
cool.
little what did you call it? The phone book.
Yeah.
It's a phone on one side and a foldable keyboard on the other, and it's like a glow in the dark book, and it's held together with like magnets and stuff, and the keyboard pops open. It's really
good.
That's
cool.
super cool.
I don't know. You designed it. Like you opened up magical programs and you made this physical thing out of it from your computer.
We
It's
can't
cool.
stop.
I don't know.
We can't stop making things. That's our big problem.
That's cool. So to kind of bring things to a close, are there any other indie development teams or games out there right now that you think are doing something really cool from a development side? Either mechanically, artistically, the way they're setting up community, any sort of thing like that, that you would suggest people checking out?
I thought about
or just indie games you think are really cool. That counts too.
there is what is there?
There are
I
so
have to
many
make sure
games
I
now.
get-
Yeah, I know.
There's just this massive flood of people making video games that has never been done before.
Yeah, so much innovation is happening right now.
It is crazy. Anything VR is just spectacular.
Not anything VR. That's a lie.
well-
I have heard the things that you say.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes you're like, why would they do this?
But
These people are
there's a lot.
terrible.
What I'm trying to say
humans.
is there's a huge amount of innovation going on in the VR area. It's a new frontier, and it's incredible.
Oh, totally. Definitely.
Absolutely.
One team to shout out. I know so many different indie devs. We host this annual Indie Dev Super Show, which is kind of like an online version of PAX in a sense. It's a live stream where every hour a different game and their dev comes on, and we play the game and hang out and talk. And I've met a bunch of devs this way, and one of them that kind of stands out, especially in my mind right now because they're hosting a game jam next week, is Serenity Forge. They are making some really awesome games right now. The one that's so swooping, Kingsbird, I think it's called. hope that's right. But they're definitely
motion
called
control on that is
Serenity
just amazing.
Forge, and they're really awesome. And the story behind the studio too is really neat. It's like a very personal story for him, but he's shared it. One of the lead people there, like basically their lives were literally saved because of video games. Like literally. I'm not using the literally word like other people use it. I mean, like there was a direct correlation from playing a video game and surviving. So.
And they're hosting a game jam
on meaningful games. Yeah. If you go to serenityforge.com/game jam.
Yeah.
In the next week. I don't know when this launches.
The idea being that everybody working on this jam is going to try to make a game that
inspires art or teaches something or
is helpful.
Inspires
says
something meaningful.
Has weight, besides just
which I think
left,
and I mean the games that they make, it's not like this is an educational game. Like they made a game that is like you're basically actually learning how gravity works inside of our actual like galaxy type stuff, like actual physics, but it's not teaching you anything. It's just how you play, and you just learn it because you're playing and having fun. And I like that kind of approach to things. So they're smart and cool people. There's a whole bunch of amazing devs. I mean, like I have a chat group with like over 100 different devs in it that are all amazing. So it's really hard to like just call out specific ones. The Indie Illuminati, is that what you just said?
It sounds like I have this secret chat.
Oh no, now the tinfoil comes out.
A lot of the people who were on the Super Show, we all just kind of ended up still talking to each other, and then like they invited their friends, and I invite my friends, and it's like the
indie dev community is
very friendly,
amazing, because we all are stronger by standing together than being against or like competing. Although like we are in some ways of thinking competitors.
There's competition.
It's easier for us to stand together than apart.
Yeah. There are some other outstanding game devs, like Mushba. He's outstanding in his own special way, because I'm pretty sure he makes his games purely for his own amusement and no one else's. And the joke is on you if you play his games, which I think is beautiful.
It is.
Who else? That's probably enough time. I don't know. You probably like, oh my god, these people are talking about.
No. And talk about other devs, I'm sure.
That's what we love. Well, Robot Loves Kitty, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us about what's going into Upsilon Circuit and your history as game devs. We'll make sure to keep people aware of as things come out with Upsilon Circuit, though it sounds like it's not going to be very much. All under wraps.
Yes.
But thank you again.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Video game shows. I'm talking about Upsilon Circuit. Do you love watching people play video games? Do you like watching reality shows? Well, what if I told you the fate of everyone on screen is in your hands? In Upsilon Circuit, 8 lucky players, and only 8 players, in the entire universe, explore and fight their way through a fantasy world while thousands of people like you or me watch them.